A very warm good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 3 of the Summit of Future 2025. Today, we turn our focus to one of the most pressing and important topics of our time, the future of Earth. Throughout today's sessions, we will explore groundbreaking ideas and solutions aimed at creating a more sustainable and thriving planet. From renewable energy innovations to sustainable urban planning, and from biodiversity conservation to climate action strategies, we will dive deep into the efforts that can drive real change. We are honored to have with us leading environmentalists, policymakers, and innovators who will share their insights and inspire us to take meaningful steps towards a greener future. So, get ready to be informed, inspired, and empowered to play your part in building a sustainable tomorrow. Once again, welcome to day 3 of the Summit of Future 2025. Together, let's shape a better planet. So, we will be having a panel discussion today, and there will be 5 guests and moderator. Let me give a brief introduction about the guests today. First of all, we will be having Dr. Muralee Thummarukudy. He will be joining online. Dr. Thummarukudy brings to this position over 3 decades of global management experience in the UN and private sector. An internationally renowned expert in disaster response, he played a key role in addressing the environmental aftermath of many major conflicts and disasters, implementing projects in over 35 countries. Before joining the United Nations, Dr. Thummarukudy served as environmental advisor to Shell Group in Southeast Asia and Middle East. Prior to his current assignment, Dr. Thummarukudy served as the chief of the disasters and conflict program at the United Nations Environment Program. We welcome you, sir. Next.
Thank you.
Next, we will be having Dr. Satish C. Tripathi as former Deputy Director General, Geological Survey of India and Founder Secretary of the Society of Earth Scientists. He worked extensively on the geology of India, and currently he is engaged in geological heritage conservation and development of global geoparks. Indian geoheritage was brought to global stage because of his continuous efforts. UNESCO and IUGS is supporting him in this endeavor. We welcome you, sir. Next, Dr. Sajin Kumar KS. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Geology, University of Kerala. He is also an adjunct assistant professor at the Michigan Technological University, USA. He is a member of the Landslide Advisory Committee of Government of Kerala. His specialization are landslides and planetary sciences. We welcome you, sir. Next, Professor Girish Gopinath. Professor Girish Gopinath is a distinguished scientist specializing in hydrogeology, remote sensing, and GIS applications in water resources management. Since 2007, he has been a scientist in the Geomatics Division at the Center for Water Resources Development and Management in Kerala. His research focuses on the scientific management of groundwater resources, integrating hydrogeology, hydrometeorology, hydrochemistry, geophysics, and remote sensing. We welcome you, sir. Next, Professor Sunil PS with us. Professor Dr. Sunil PS. He is the head of the department and chairman of the Board of Studies at the Department of Marine Geology and Geophysics, Kochi University of Science and Technology, CUSAT. Before joining CUSAT, he served as a scientist and research professor at the Indian Institute of Geomagnetism, Mumbai. He has also been a visiting scientist at Kyoto University, Japan, and the University of Nevada, USA. Dr. Sunil has participated in several Indian scientific expeditions to Antarctica and the Arctic and has over 40 publications in international journals. We welcome you, sir. Next, Professor Simmy Kurian here with us, joining as moderator. Dr. Simmy Kurian is currently working professor and deputy director of CMS Business School, JAIN University, Kochi. She is a doctoral degree holder in management. She has an experience spanning around 20 plus years in education, research, and industry. She has several national and international index journal publications to her credit and has presented several papers in national and international conferences. She is also a part of a project funded by ICSSR working on Kochi Water Metro as an urban mobility solutions. We welcome you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that generous introduction to me and all to our esteemed panelists. We'll quickly move on to the theme of our discussion this morning. The Western Ghats, spanning 6 states including Kerala, this UNESCO World Heritage Site is one of the 8 hottest hotspots of biological diversity globally. And geological heritage and ecological wealth of this region forms the backbone of life and livelihoods in Kerala, a state that depends heavily on its landscape for water, agriculture, and biodiversity. However, the recent events such as the devastating Wayanad floods and landslides have highlighted the fragile balance between development and environmental conservation. So the panel here is going to have a discussion on the eco-sensitive region, the Western Ghats, and I heartily welcome Muralee sir to initiate the discussions of the panel.
Thank you, Simmy, for the introduction, and I hope I'm audible. If you could just confirm it.
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the JAIN University for organizing this futuristic event of vision of Kerala beyond our present time. I think it's a very important event. I think this should have been done in the past, should have been done by multiple other organizations, but it's very appropriate that JAIN University brings this new idea into the Kerala domain. I also want to thank you for inviting me to this session. I was looking forward to sharing this panel with Dr. Madhav Gadgil, who most Malayalis know for his work on the Gadgil Committee report on the future of Western Ghats. As somebody who's working in the field of disaster management, I get often asked, do you support the Gadgil Committee report? Every time there's a disaster in Kerala, all the newspapers start to write and say, if only the Madhav Gadgil Committee report was followed, we would not have had this problem. And therefore the answer, the discussion on his report, as well as the importance of Western Ghats, is absolutely significant. As somebody who has been following the environmental situation as well as the disaster situation in Kerala and work internationally on the link between nature and disasters, I'm absolutely convinced that the report of Dr. Madhav Gadgil, which spans not just Kerala, but as mentioned, the Western Ghats, which spans across all the way from Tamil Nadu to Gujarat, is absolutely significant. That the Western Ghats is a very fragile ecosystem, and if you do not maintain it well, or if you mess with it, that it will cause disasters both ecological as well as geological, is very clear and evident. But I go beyond that point and often mention that it is not that our Western Ghats are ecologically sensitive. The entire Kerala is ecologically sensitive, spanning from the coast to the tip of Western Ghats. Kerala is not a large place with big strategic depth. We are probably at the broadest point, probably we are 130 kilometers wide. And at narrow point, it go down to less than 10 kilometers or less than 20 at most. So we cannot treat only the Western Ghat as ecologically sensitive and the midland and the lowland as something where we could continue to have human activities unrestricted, while restrictions should be put on the Western Ghat. And this, I think, has been the main damage in a way done by the debate on the Geological Committee report, that we focus our debate to the Western Ghats. When we look at Kerala and Kerala's future, we have to see it in totality, because many of the issues are same. One of the fundamental issue in Kerala with environment is not lack of environmental awareness among the community. Our community, both young and old, are absolutely aware of the environmental fragility of the state. Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad has been active all the way from 1970s, when much of the world were still not thinking of environmental activism. The challenge is that when our environmental concern and our financial concern start to interact with one another, the finance always wins. And this is not just about Kerala, this is also a global situation. So when we talk about the Western Ghat and its significance, of course, those people who are in the Western Ghat, their financial interests are severely affected. If land use restrictions are put on the Western Ghat, their financial interests are affected. So clearly they would not support it. But for those people who are in the midland and the coastal area, restrictions on the Western Ghats will not cause them financial harm, so they support the report. But when it comes to coastal zone regulation, which put restriction on the coastal zone areas, suddenly the situation reverses. And people, the highland and the midland support it, whereas the coastal people against it. And finally, when you put restrictions on paddy and wetland conversion, etc., it affects the financial interest of people in the midland, and they object to it while people in the highland and the coastal areas support it. The point I'm making is that it is not lack of environmental awareness, but it's the implication on it, its financial implication, which is putting people against nature. Now, if we want to change it, we should not only improve the linkages between nature and disasters, improve our understanding and people's understanding of nature and disasters, we should also have a societal mechanism to support those people who will be affected financially if restrictions are to be put. Climate change is for real and nobody is debating it anymore, except probably a very micro fringe group. The fact that climate change is going to intensify rains and we are going to have much intense rain was already predicted in the 1990s. And we are seeing that. That the climate change is going to raise the sea level is already predicted from the 1990s, and we are starting to see it. I was just reading today that the Nanyang Technological Institute is predicting at sea level rise by 2100, as was predicted before. So we are actually seeing massive disasters around the world, and we are seeing increasing disasters in Kerala, and we have to be mindful of this. Since the time allocated to me is brief, I will actually just conclude by just making one or two more points. That the biggest challenge which we have in the Western Ghat is one which is relating to property right. Western Ghats is naturally not a place for human habitation. In fact, people are encouraged to move into the hill, settle down there, and grow more food. That duty people have done against tremendous odds in the 20th century. Now, they have a fragile ecosystem. They have even more fragile property right on that. And people are concerned about it because land in Kerala is not only people's wealth, but also their insurance. This is what they think will sustain them for future. It's their medical bill, it's their children's education. So anything which affects land price, people will resist. But something else is also happening. The new generation of people in the Western Ghats, they are looking to new livelihoods. They are no longer looking into agricultural practices. People are moving down. If you look at the latest statistics, population statistics from the upper region, you actually see people are moving down, not because of any government pressure, but because they have new livelihoods. If you talk to young people in that upper region, and as well as in the coastal region, as well as in the agriculture, the midland region, they are no longer into agriculture as a livelihood. So Western Ghats is in a way thinning of population without any government intervention. What we should do is to create a system whereby we encourage this trend so that in another 20 years, we have a much less problem to handle. We support land use right as well as compensation for those who would like to live. And we cannot leave the protection of the Western Ghats to the people of the Western Ghats and say and pit them against nature. I think that will be a very unfair solution. I would conclude with this remark, and then I look forward to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Muralee sir. So the key point that you made is the land use rights need to be supported for the people people inhabiting the region, and there should be financial support for those people who are affected by the climate change of the region. Moving on with our discussion, we have Kerala's diverse geology, including the Wayanad Plateau, a hotspot for mineral resources, and the coastal terrains that record dynamic changes over the millennia. Now, these features not only hold scientific significance, but also serve as critical resources for understanding climate change, resource management, disaster risk. So I'll now move on to Tripathi sir, who would like to throw some insight on this regard.
Thank you, ma'am. I will be more focusing. I will be giving just an overview of geological heritage. I don't know how many of you know actually what is a geoheritage. See, geoheritage is just like a history book where Earth has recorded its events, its evolution through the rocks. But the problem with our geological heritage with other cultural or historical heritage, that if once our geological heritage is destroyed, we cannot recreate. For cultural or historical heritage, we can, up to some extent, we can recreate these structures. But for geological heritage, now why conservation of geological heritage is important? Because as Muralee sir told and Simmy ma'am told, that what happened in the past, we must know. And how we will know? Unless our rock record from Quaternary to Precambrians are available, at least some sections are preserved and are available, then only we will be able to understand the future of our Earth. What is going to happen? See, Muralee sir was talking about the climate change and its impending impact. But we have 5 climate changes in the past where almost life was ruined. Almost 95% of the life was finished. So unless we go through, additional impact of this climate change is what we are adding to the climate change. Climate change is a routine and regular Earth's process. We cannot stop it. We can only slow it down. That we cannot add. We should not add anything which accelerate the climate change. So now, since last few years, I am working with the conservation of geological heritage across the country. In fact, in 1970s it was started, but we are more interested in mineral and mining and other things that we have lost interest in the conservation of geoheritage. So last 4 or 5 years I have started taking up this aspect and roaming around the country, apprising state governments, state authorities, why this is important, why we should conserve this geoheritage. Geological Survey of India has declared 32 national geological monuments across the country, but most of them are in a neglected stage. The problem is that there is no such legislation available to conserve geoheritage. In 2019, we submitted a legislation to PMO and it was deliberated several times, and a draft legislation was on public domain, but it's still we are not seeing it implementation of its legislation. So that is the main problem. Now most of the people doesn't understand what is geological heritage, and our sentiments are not attached with it. That is the problem. And most of even geological fraternity feel that studying geoheritage is a neglected branch of geology. Even when I was with GSI, I was thinking like this. But when I entered into this domain, I realized that lot of work being done globally. It is now a pure science, and large number of students are doing PhD over it. And UNESCO and International Union of Geological Sciences have now thrusting about this, because globally there are large developments are going on. So UNESCO in 2022 declared with our efforts 6th October as an International Geodiversity Day. And International Union of Geological Sciences, they started declaring IUGS Global Geoheritage Sites. And to inform you, the Western Ghats, Deccan Traps of the Western Ghats, especially Mahabaleshwar region, has been last year declared as a IUGS Global Geoheritage Site. The objective is to promote these sites so that people should understand this importance of these structures, and they work as a guide for future. Now another thing is coming up now as a geopark. Geological park are built around some sites of international geological significance, and they are clubbed with the cultural and historical sites. Even foods and handicrafts are also part of the geopark. It is not geological park. So these things are now coming up. Globally there are 213 global geoparks, UNESCO global geoparks, but we don't have. So since last 2-3 years, I am meeting politicians, bureaucrats to bring geoparks here. And I am working in Chitrakoot and Bagh. Bagh is a dinosaur fossil site where we are working to develop it as a geopark. And Chitrakoot also we are working for geopark. And in Rajasthan also one site, Jawar, where we get ancient metallurgical remains, that also we have taken up. Now talking about the Kerala, see, coastal regions are a very peculiar domain where fresh water react with the seawater. So that domain itself is a very interesting aspect. But unfortunately, So far as geoheritage is concerned, this domain has not been properly worked out. We have not identified sites. We are having Varkala Cliff, which was in news since last 1 year, that it is under destruction and lot of other activities. And I am happy to learn from Sajin sir that state government is now protecting it and trying to develop it as a geopark. Now we cannot work in isolation. We have to have connectivity with our other developmental agencies or those people who are working in different areas to understand each other's concern and the practical aspects of the we are talking about the Varkala Cliff. We have a black sand beach which has not been taken into consideration. Why we are getting, in a small area, we are getting these beach sands. So these geological processes, understanding these processes are important in disaster management also. Because unless we know the ground geology, see, Western Ghats have been declared as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And if you go through its literature, a lot of details are given on the geological aspect of Western Ghats. But the criteria is not geological. So unless, see, everything thrives on the geology. Whether it is climate, whether it is environment, whether it is forest, whether it is biodiversity, everything thrives on our geological ground. So unless we know the ground, we will not be able to work in totality in any area, not only in Kerala, in any area. And Kerala, as Muralee sir already said, that it is vulnerable because lot of landslides and other activities have taken up. And now geologist's role is much more here. So I will conclude, and we have our geologist friends here. They will add much more things to this. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So, sir's point, to reiterate it, that the Western Ghats act as a climatic barrier that influence the monsoons and that are a lifeline for Kerala's agriculture. And we know that rivers that originate in the Ghats, like the Periyar and the Bharatpura, they provide drinking water and hydroelectricity and irrigation to the state. So, very rightly, sir said that the geological nature of the landscape also is equally important when we discuss climate action and disaster mitigation. Moving on to the ecology of the region, the Western Ghats host a staggering array of biodiversity, including endemic species of flora and fauna. So now I will move on to Professor Girish and would like to request his inputs on technology being used as an intervention for mitigating disaster. Yes, sir.
Okay. Mostly I will discuss on what are the technology part for mapping, monitoring of our highland, midland and lowland. When you see the conventional method of mapping and monitoring, it is very difficult in our Western Ghats because of high rainfall, the density of forest, then steep slope. So geospatial technology is one of the technology you can use for a mapping, monitoring and modeling of your hotspot. When you see the geospatial technology, it includes satellite remote sensing, geographic information system, global navigation satellite system. This can be coupled with our latest tool like a machine learning and AI. It can give a precise data of our terrain. So there is a new algorithm we are following as a GeoA, that's a Geo Artificial Intelligence. This is one of the technique you can get a more classified maps of terrain. When you see the satellite constellation, there is a more than 1,400 Earth observation satellites working satellites are in orbit. Out of 34 belongs to India. So that you will get a continuous data of our Earth. We can monitor our Earth. Primarily, we are using our ResourceSat or Cartosat. We also depends on Landsat or Sentinel for generating land use map or landforms, all the things. So when you see the climate of Kerala, when you see the rainfall of Kerala for last 30 years, when you analyze data, you will not get any trend. You will get a maximum or a mean annual rainfall of 300 mm. But when you cut as a northwest and southwest monsoon, there is a lot of erratic changes. So when you analyze your data, you can see the number of rainy days are coming down. It is coming to 80. Then extreme rainfall event is coming up. That means intensity is coming up. So all this will trigger our extreme floods and also landslides. So we faced from 2018 onwards, there is an extreme rainfall event. We are getting a rainfall of 100 mm within an hour. So you can see last time in Churalmala, we got more than 500 mm for 2 days. So this change in the climate will also trigger a lot of landslides and flood. Once the flood is triggered, there is a chance of soil erosion. Once the soil erosion will happen, it will reduce the water holding capacity of your river as well as the reservoir. So we are facing the soil erosion in the uplands. There is a reducing the water holding capacity of rivers and reservoir. These are the problems we are facing. So we carried out a work recently in 2024. We published a landslide atlas map of Kerala with the using of artificial intelligence. So we carried out more than a 48 landslide inventory for the entire state. We noticed that 30% of Kerala is under highly vulnerable zones of landslide. And the interesting thing we noticed from 2018 to 2022, there was a 3.6% of geographical area increase for the Kerala. That means we are facing the extreme rainfall even from 2018 onwards. Then here also we are using the satellite and geospatial technology. And when you talk about other type of technology like a SAR interferometry that you are calling as an INSAR technique, there is a recent paper published by Space Application Center. It's showing that there is a -5 to -22 millimeter per year of subsidence of Kochi megacity. That's a recent paper that Kochi is subsiding at a rate of -5 to -22. So we can use a INSAR technique. INSAR is one of the best technique. You can study the time displacement study. So once you got a time displacement study, you can generate whether it's a stop instability or landslide occurrence or subsidence. So the satellite is again give you, there's a more information about the subsidence of our land, whether it is in highland or midland or lowland. And we are also a part of NISAR. NISAR is a prestigious project of NASA ISR of synthetic aperture radar. Our university is a part of NISAR. So we completed the first phase. What we are doing to find out a biomass for Western Ghats, right? We are doing not only for Kerala, we are carrying this work for the Karnataka as well as for the Madhya Pradesh. So what we are doing, we are taking the LiDAR measurements for a biomass. The NISR will launch in 2025. It is the first dual frequency satellite consisting of both L and S band. So once this satellite in the orbit, you will get a lot of information for biomass, the subsidence of land, the land use, landform, lot of information you can derive from this type of technology. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So it's really encouraging to hear from sir the kind of technology interventions that are there underway and very ambitious projects like NISR and the INSAR satellite technology, which is mapping real-time information. So thank you for those inputs. Moving on to further discuss the catastrophic effect of the floods and the landslides in Wayanad. These are a direct consequence of the ecological degradation in the region. We would like to hear a little bit more on this from Sajin sir. Sir, your inputs on this.
Good morning. So thank you very much for inviting me to this summit. And before saying much about the natural hazards or disasters which have havocked the entire state of Kerala from 2018, I will take you back when the earth was born or when the earth was evolved. So earth originated something else about 456 crore years ago. That is 4.56 billion years ago. So when the Earth was formed, of course, you all may be knowing, Earth is a collage of asteroids or meteorites or space debris, which combine together to form a planet. So during that time, the surface temperature of the Earth, the estimated or the model, the surface temperature of the Earth is 2,700 degrees Celsius. And today we are standing at 27 degrees Celsius. So if you take an autopsy, whether the climate has changed or it is reversed, that is a different question. And during that time, only two geological processes were operating on the Earth. So one is the Earth is continuously bombarded by meteorites, and the second is throughout the Earth there is spewing volcanism. So when the volcanism first comes to our mind, the only thing which comes to our mind is lava. But rather than lava, the volcano emits a lot of gases as well as water vapor. The gases emitted by the volcanism has resulted in the formation of the atmosphere, whereas the water vapor condenses to form clouds. But unfortunately, the clouds failed to yield precipitation or rainfall during that time because the water cannot reach the surface of the Earth because it is too hot. So it took about 36 crore years for the Earth to cool and the clouds to precipitate as rainfall. Imagine the clouds formed for 36 crore years and the rain lasted for 40,000 years continuously, the first rain. Imagine about 2018 when we got 3 days of rainfall in Kerala, what was the havoc? So 40,000 and 3 days, it is two big N numbers, you cannot compare. So during that time it is hazard, now it is disaster. You know the difference between hazard and disaster. When a hazard affects the society, we call it a disaster. So we are not bothered about the 40,000 years rain, but about 3 days rain. And 3 days rain, 2018 is known to everyone. Even a movie also have launched. And that narrates about 2018 as floods. But the unsung thing is, there was about 4,728 landslides, small and big and medium type of landslide, which occurred in a single year in 2018. Of which 2,223 landslides was in Idiki district. Of that one, 50%, nearly 1,000 landslides occurred in the deep forest. So we always have a belief that forests are the ideal places because there is the virgin, pristine forest where there is no human or anthropogenic interferences, but even there was landslide. 1,000 landslides occurred in the deep forest. What we will say the explanation. So the thing is that landslides are a common feature. Whether the human have influenced or triggered it is a secondary question, because there is no study worldwide stating that human is the sole factor for triggering the landslide. So if you come back to the Wayanad, like Dr. Girish told, the landslide occurred when there was a 2-day rainfall of 500 millimeter, which is a huge amount. Not only Wayanad, any place in the world can fail at that time. Only two conditions is required. You have a slope which facilitates landslide, that is any slope greater than 20 degrees considered as a landslide prone area, and you should have material in that slope which is capable of failing. That is the soft rock, not the hard rock. Soft rock should be there, 20 degrees slope. Anywhere in the world will fail. And if I will talk about more about landslides, it is a broad term. There are different types of landslide within it, of which in Kerala, 99% of the landslide occurred is debris flow. Debris flow means the soil gets saturated with the water and the rheology of the soil gets changed from the solid to a fluid and tends to flow. That is why we call this debris flow. And in Kerala, the thing is that the major reason for the landslide occurrence is that the hard rock which you see, or the hard rock which is used for constructing this building, is something else about 250 crore years, 2.5 billion year old rock. But the soil above the hard rock is just 10 to 15,000 years. That means that a hard rock above which is soft rock, and this soft rock and this hard rock has no bonding. So whenever water rainfall occurs, it infiltrates the soil And whenever it reaches the interface between the soft rock and the hard rock, it will never facilitate infiltration because it is massive, but it flows along the contact between the soft rock and hard rock. And that is why when you visit any hill station, even if it is non-rainy season, you will see water coming out from that area because it is the water which is protected. Which is in the soil is oozing out or spouting out from this one. So if what we can do in the case or to mitigate the landslide, as I've told, there is no chances of mitigating it. Landslide is a need of the hour, need for there, it has to occur, but we can convert that disaster into hazard only by early warning. So when I come back, if the soil fails, for example, if I say that if a landslide occurred at Wayanad or any place, which is having a 2-meter thick soil in 200 millimeter rainfall in 5 days. Imagine that is the landslide occurred, 1 meter soil, 200 millimeter rainfall in 5 days. Then that we call it as, we can take that as a threshold, and considering this as the threshold, in the future, I can give an early warning that a slope with 1 meter soil, with the 200 meter rainfall in 5 days can fail. So if in 3 days, if 100 millimeter rainfall occurs, then I can say that in the next 2 days, if there is 100 millimeter rainfall, then there is a possibility of landslide. So that is the way in which early warning. So we can convert the disaster to hazard, but we cannot prevent a hazard. And more to that, I can say that if you say the plight of the Western Ghats, that is the theme of the workshop, I can say that these are temporary features. Mountains, lakes are temporary features. I can end with one statement. There was a huge ocean near the Palakkad Gap once upon a time called Mozambique Ocean, and there was a huge mountain near Palakkad which is much higher than the Himalayas, and now there is no evidence. These all vanishes by time, and even Western Ghats also vanishes by time. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. That input was really so informative, the debris flow that you're talking about. And your statement is really impactful when you say that there is no point in thinking about totally mitigating these disasters. But if we have a threshold of the past taken as a benchmark, and we take some early signals to make warnings or predictions about such disasters in advance, we can convert disasters into hazards and maybe reduce the impact. Thank you, sir, for those inputs. Moving on further to discuss on the Wayanad floods itself, the catastrophic floods and landslides in the region are a direct consequence of ecological degradation. I request Sunil, sir, on his inputs on the same.
Yeah, good morning to all, and sincere thanks for inviting me to this Summit of Future. And because since it is mainly deal with the Western Ghats, landslides in Western Ghats and climate change over the Kerala, because still I will take you to some part of the Himalaya also. If we see the landslides map of our Indian region, the maximum, the points or the triggering points of these landslides you can see in the Himalayas, and secondly along the Western Ghats region. And when all the speakers, they discussed about the climate change, then monsoon, as a triggering factor of these landslides in the Western in the Western Ghats region. When we go to the Himalayan side, the additional point is, or the triggering factor is that the earthquake activities mainly, because currently which we are sitting at the Indian plate regions, though apart from the revolution of this earth, the plate itself, it is moving towards in a northeast direction with an average speed of 4 to 5 centimeters per year. And when you go to the Himalayan regions, because of this tectonic plate movements towards the northeast direction at a rate of 4 to 5 centimeters per year, generally what happens, the collisions always taken place in between the India and Eurasian plate in the Himalayan region, where the main boundary thrust, the two plates, they converged each other. And additionally, apart from this heavy rainfall or the climate changes, the main factor is the stress is always building up there along the entire Himalayan arc region or the entire Himalayan belt. And when we compare with the Western Ghats, the age of the Western Ghats and the Himalaya, it is comparatively very, very young rock formations are there. As Dr. Sajin told, when Dr. Girish also, we have the lowland, midland, and highland area. The slope of the region on the Western Ghats, it is, we can, from the angle of degree by 20 to 45 degree. When we go to Himalayan regions, you will have, it is more than 60, even it can, close to 75 degree slope. And there, of course, since it is a very young, the rock formations are very young in the Himalayan regions. There also always these landslides keep on taking place. Whereas when we come to the Western Ghats area, here we know that when the rain comes, if it is a heavy rainfall or extreme heavy rainfalls, there are the possibilities of the landslides, as he mentioned, because of the thickness of the soil, topsoil, and its connection with the bedrocks. And of course, it is a chances of get release from there and connected to the soil or the slope. And when I was, as you mentioned, when I was in the Indian Institute of Geomagnetism, I was mainly concentrating in the studies of earthquake activities in the Himalayan regions. I had an opportunity to visit for the field studies exclusively along the Indian Himalayan belt, as well as some part of the Western Ghats also. When we think the techniques and the activities in reality, what we felt that when we come to the Kerala regions, because in Western Ghats we have a lot of landslides are keep on coming, and even bigger than our Pettumudi or our Churalmala. Some places in the Western Ghats it is happening also. The problem or the attention when it comes means when the casualty or damages are more, then the attention goes there. And obviously, and always when the monsoon starts, this happens in Kerala region, because if you take the stretch of from the Kasaragod to Trivandrum, because of the lifestyle of Kerala people, the entire area we encroach and we stay there. If there is any small landslides happens, there used to be a house, and of course there will be a damage or the casualty. It always happens. That makes the difference in terms of the number of events and the intensity of these landslides. Likewise, if you go to Himalayan side, as told, if there may not be that much severe rainfalls like our Kerala regions, but additionally they have the threat from the earthquakes. And in 2023, all of you may be aware that there was in January itself, the news was the entire Joshimath landslide in that city. It was spreading at an area of 2,500 square kilometer area. It started to suddenly slip towards in a particular direction. And this was actually when in a collaboration with the Space Application Center, Ahmedabad, the Kochi University of Science and Technology, we visited there, and the techniques like interferometric synthetic aperture INSAR, where Dr. Girish has mentioned, and then along with the INSAR technique and application of global navigation satellite system, we have visited the place and used this data. And the initial stage, people were thinking that, of course, the possibility may be because of the tectonic activities over there. But when we realized that, considering the INSAR data and the global navigation GNSS data, we could clearly, integrating this both data, we could able to understand that the movement of this Joshimath entire that pilgrim township, because that is generally we call as a gateway to the Badrinath. And this land was almost moving towards that slope direction, which was towards the north direction, at a rate of 22 millimeter per year from 2004 to 2022 till around September. And after that, there was a heavy rainfall during September 2022, and it was almost closer to a 200 millimeter range. And after that, immediately after that, this entire especially in the case of some part of the Joshimat area, that the velocity, the rate of this movement has increased from 22 millimeter per year to it has 350 millimeter per year. That initiated and triggered this land subsidence or sliding and the damages in the buildings over this Joshimat area during 2023 January 11 onwards. And now still the data sir, we are analyzing, now it is again became the stable. And one more thing from the city or the entire city, when we were analyzing this both data, we could able to understand that the half area where especially in the army, where they were taking care of the one part of this Joshimat, they were having a better way of a drainage system and the very systematic way of the construction. The other part of the city was very drastically changing, and where the human intervention was more. That area was getting the fast the movement along with this after this heavy rainfall. And from there itself, we know because of the infusion of this water or infiltration of the water during this monsoon season, and apart from this, the heavy rainfall, the people, because a lot of people are staying there, if the proper drainage system is not there also, it is a possibility to, chances of the more sliding or the subsidence of the particular area, especially in the regions like highly slope area like Himalaya or even in the case of Western Ghats also. And by comparing and investigating these informations, we can, even for the Wayanad regions, now the government is planning for the settlement or the new construction of the new township. We need to, especially by using the techniques, the available data and the infrastructure or the information which is whether it is happening in the Western Ghats or whether it is happening in the Himalaya or anywhere else in the world, we should integrate all these informations, at least for when, since we are thinking about another next 50 years and how the world would be. Then we have to, now itself, we need to incorporate and we integrate and make a proper solutions if we can. Now itself we can start at least by another 50 years, we will be, even no need to wait for that 50 years, in another couple of 10 years, we will be able to predict these type of natural calamities so that we can stop this type of disasters, which we can definitely, the techniques are there, the facilities are there. Only thing we should integrate these things in a proper way instead of individually or independently doing using these techniques. We should integrate, and there should be a forum like this to discuss by inviting the even public also. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil sir. That was like really another very valuable insight that Sunil sir has shared, citing the example of Joshimat and Badrinath region, and he has compared the scenario with the Western Ghats. So sir has rightly pointed out the importance of how urban planning is very, very important. And when we are doing urban planning, we need to consider an integrated approach, considering the past and the landscape of the region, the geology, as well as the ecological aspects of the region when we are trying to establish a human settlement in the region. So we'll quickly go back to Muralee sir, and we will take maybe a minute or so from each of the speakers to talk about the future direction in these lines and how we should think of solutions of safeguarding the region in the future. So Muralee sir, can we have your inputs on the future line of thought and what should be done as a solution to safeguard the region? Sir, you are muted, I think, sir. Kindly unmute. We cannot hear you. Still not audible, sir. Not yet audible, sir. Not yet audible. Okay, so till Sir rejoins, I think we'll go to Tripathi, sir.
No, I already spoken that for all disaster-related studies, mineral-related studies, and town planning, land use, land cover planning, unless we have proper ground geological data, our planning will be failed. And second thing, which now I am realizing, being a scientist now working with the people, ground in the ground level, involvement of the community is very important. Most of the government schemes are not involving the community at large. They are not educating, and they are not properly involved in the plans or anything what government does. And that is also a problem that many of the government agencies, they don't want to involve with the people at large, maybe due to some other reasons. So unless we involve the people at large, we cannot do anything on ground, whether it is scientific studies or ground work or anything. So my two contention as a geologist that detailed ground geological studies should be done, and the involvement of the community should always be there.
Thank you, sir. So we take your 2 points. One, the groundwork on geological study of the region, and second is the community involvement when we are talking about the ecological heritage. Yes, sir. Muralee, sir, can we have you in?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay, thank you. So what I was mentioning is that in the context of climate change, there are 3 areas in Kerala which are very vulnerable. The coastal community, which you can see increasingly becoming vulnerable, and the government's reaction so far has been to put up higher and longer and higher coastal sea walls. Then we have the community in Kutanad, which is also vulnerable, and again, the government's reaction has been to put up bunds. And then you have the high ranges where also climate change is causing challenges to human life, as was mentioned. It's not just a hazard, it's also leading to disasters. This policy is going to fail, that we cannot stop or fight climate change by marginal intervention of a seawall or a bunded Kutanad or proactive action in the high ranges to create better roads, etc. We have to see that climate change is going to affect these places in a fundamental manner, and we have to think of a different land use pattern there. And to do that, we have to already see what people are doing. If the community is given an assurance that the government will somehow be able to safeguard these places, then the community will invest their resources, and these resources, be it putting up resorts, be it putting up new farms, farmhouses, etc. And when damage happens, the total cost of damage will multiply. On the contrary, if you were to give the signal to the people that these areas are now increasingly vulnerable, and people are no longer seeking those livelihoods anyway, then you will achieve a thinning of population in all these areas. And therefore, in future, we'll have a much lesser problem to handle. So therefore, being honest with the people about the prognosis of these areas, its vulnerability to climate change, and providing signals which allows such thinning of population is what I would recommend. Thank you.
Right, sir. So, sir has beautifully pointed out the importance of a structured plan for sensitizing the people in the region about the prognosis of disaster and how they could think of alternate source of livelihoods. So that's a better way of an intervention instead of taking action after the disaster actually occurs. Thank you, Muralee, sir. Quickly moving on to Girish, sir, for his inputs.
So yesterday there was a discussion in Times of India regarding the coastal erosion. there's a lot of discussion regarding coastal erosion. When you see the coastal area, it is more than 365 kilometers of seawall. See, now people are demanding seawall. Where we'll get the rock? Actually, it is from Western Ghats. That means you are disturbing Western Ghats. You are disturbing both Western Ghats as well as the coastal area. Because if you see there's a lot of data is available with a lot of research institute as well as government institute, but we are not sharing that. Because a lot of people are doing a landslide, then a lot of people are doing a landforms, change in the land use. But there is no digital data for government is available. Because now government is started for a cadastral mapping for our, it will give, because digital maps are very important. Because when you see that there is a drastic change in the land use pattern, when you see in the upstreams of Nilambur and Wayanad, I visited last week, even there is a new water theme park is coming up. It is new one. That is made they are disturbing more than 100 hectares of land. I don't know whether they will get the water. It is not from the groundwater. Maybe they will extract from some springs or something. So there is a drastic change of land use pattern in the Western Ghats. We are not having any digital data for the government for taxation or any type of purpose for managing this disaster or anything. Even in Mundakal and Churalmala also, there is a lot of confusion for government. What is the total number of houses? But we got, again, it is from Planet Earth, from satellite data. How many plots are like that? So we need a digital data for the future management and planning. That is very essential.
Right, sir. So again, Girish sir is once again reiterating the fact that technology intervention could be the way forward, where digital data is available with the government agencies who can proactively plan the mitigation of risk in the region. Sajin sir, your inputs.
Yeah, as I have earlier told, natural hazards and disasters are supposed to happen. So the only thing is that you have to live with the disaster. That means that you have to mitigate through an early warning system, not to stop the landslide or any natural hazards, but early warning. So before that, I want to vouch for the statements mentioned by Tripathi sir and Muralee sir stating that awareness. Awareness means it should be the core, because if you say an early warning, worldwide studies says that 10% warning is the best prediction. That is, if you give 10 warning, only one will be successful. Imagine that if I give a warning in the first time, landslide doesn't happen, the words and the authenticity of the science is getting diminished in the people. We have to make it aware that every warning has to be taken seriously, and you have to move out. Let the property and all the things be there. That most importance is that save the life. That is the words and statement of this day. Thank you.
Right, sir. So early warning signs to be buzzed among the masses, and the warnings, each warning should be taken seriously. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sunil, sir, your inputs.
Yeah, being a Keralite, whatever the natural calamity, we don't read in the books. We experience ourselves, like tsunami or cyclones or landslides. Even sometimes earthquakes also we feel in near to our Idiki Dam area. There again, because everyone is being a highly literate the state, everyone is aware about this type of natural calamity. But again, how we adapt to these conditions, because no one is really, even for a common people also, even if the tsunami comes in front of our the corridor, we don't want to move from our leave our place. That is the first things we have to adapt these situations. And for that also, when in terms of rehabilitation or shelters, the government should, of course, the warning system, this will keep on come, and the government or the authority definitely, they are supposed to give the warnings, and it is happening also. The being a common man, we should first accept that conditions, and therefore for a 5 days or 10 days for a shelter or for the adjust rearrangements, we have to have a good infrastructure facility for the rehabilitation center that we have to develop. Of course, it is there, but it may be in some particular places, because since